Welcome students to the History of Architecture RAR 407. Myself Gunjan Tyagi. I am an assistant professor at APJ School of Architecture and Planning, Greater Noida. We are at week 11 and we will include the topics of High Renaissance architecture and mannerism in this lecture. In the previous lecture of early Renaissance, we read about the periods of Renaissance as early Renaissance, high Renaissance and late Renaissance, but we only included early Renaissance as a part of lecture, wherein I also explained you the buildings done by Brunelleschi, Alberti and Michelozzo di Bartolomeo. Today, in this lecture, we will learn about high Renaissance and late Renaissance. Late Renaissance is also called as mannerism, and then this late Renaissance will be followed by Baroque architecture, which will be done separately in the new lecture series. In High Renaissance, we will be learning the important works of Bramante, also known as Donato Bramante, and in the late Renaissance, called as Mannerism as well, we will be learning about the good works of Andrea Palladio. Beginning with the High Renaissance, we will now look upon who was Bramante. Donato Bramante was first Roman architect and was born in the year when Brunelleschi died. He was educated as a painter and was probably a pupil of Alberti. It is supposed that Bramante worked under Alberti. He was Florentine by birth but studied at Rome. He practiced first in the city of Milan and then in the other parts of the nearby cities. So we will now learn about the examples of the buildings done by Bramante, in which I'll include Tempio in San Pietro in Monterio and also St. Peter's Basilica, Vatican City. Tempio in San Pietro is a small circular chapel erected in the courtyard of San Pietro. Basically, San Pietro is a church and it is in Rome. This particular small chapel, which is called as Tempido, lies inside the courtyard of that church. So if you look at the building, you will realize that the side walls shows that this particular building is inside the courtyard of some building. So that building is San Pietro. This is supposed to be the site where it is believed that the crucifixion of St. Peter's took place here. And this was commissioned by Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain and is supposed to be built near about 1502. And the most visionary architects of the Italian Renaissance took part in its design and was Mr. Donato Bramante. It is a perfect gem of architecture and the internal diameter of this particular building is only 15 feet. If we compare the size of the building with the other buildings which we have read earlier, it is of a very small volume and we have read so many large churches of great grandeur. And also this is particular design has been a replica of the design done in the Roman architecture. While if you look at the design from the Forum, there is a building with the name Temple of Vesta. It is supposed that this particular building is the replica of that particular building. This is a map taken from Google, and the only intention behind having this map was to get you and introduce you to the proximity of the two buildings, the one being the Tempido and the other being the St. Peter's Basilica. why am I relating both of them is that St. Peter's Basilica and Tempedo are both buildings related to St. Peter's. So, if you look at the buildings, you realize that both of the buildings are in the vicinity of each other and the proximity is very near. So, my intent was just to introduce you to the importance of the proximity of both the buildings and to make you understand that where these two of them lie and connect with each other. As we have been told that St. Peter's Basilica is a place where the burial of St. Peter's took place, and Tempeto is a place where the crucifixion of St. Peter's took place. So the earlier building was Tempeto, where the crucifixion was done, and then the body was taken to the St. Peter's Basilica site and was buried there. In this slide, there are some of the parts which you can see from the buildings and also the view of Tempedo along with its plan and elevation. So looking at the building, it gives us a fair idea of that the building belongs to the Renaissance architecture. The use of classical elements is very prominent in this particular building. So if you look at the view, you realize that there are so many elements from Renaissance which are used in the building type. Also looking at the building, you see that the building is very simple instead of the buildings which were done in the past. Those were very well ornamented. So in the picture 1, there is a column, orders basically, which were used in Greek and Roman, and this is the pedestal of the order. So looking at the building, you might be thinking over which type of orders have been used in this building. Basically, the orders which is used in this building is Tuscan order. In Greek and Roman, we had the orders. The Greek had the Ionic, Doric and Corinthian, and afterwards in Roman, Tuscan and composite orders were added. So in this building, we see the use of Tuscan orders on the outer periphery of the building. So while looking, you can easily make out the use of Tuscan orders in the building. In the plan also, you can identify the external ring which is made out of Tuscan orders. Now these orders, in the first pictures, you see the pedestal of this order, and in the third picture, you see the capital of the order. Both of them are very simple and are very less ornamented. These are the pictures from the interior of the Tempedo. You look at that there you see the dome which is done in blue color. So while looking at this, you realize that why the color of the ceiling of the dome is blue. The intention behind this was that when you look towards the dome ceiling, it gives you a sense of sky. So for that reason, the color of the ceiling of the dome has been done in blue. Also, as I have explained you earlier, that this has the dome which is done in concrete. You see as in structural members, pair of ribs which are 4 in number. 4 pair of ribs have been introduced to the ceiling of the dome for the purpose of structure system. Also in this picture, you can easily make out the drum of the dome and the use of windows inside it, which we were also discussing that there is a play of niches in the building. So here you can easily make out the use of niches in the part of the drum. Some of the niches have been converted into a window while the others are remain same as a niche. This is again a view of Tempedo, which we have been seeing from the previous slides as well. Beginning with this particular view as well, we have understood the use of classical simple Renaissance elements. This particular view has the intention of telling you the division of the whole building into different elements of Renaissance style. So looking from the up and moving towards the down portion of the building, you realize the use of different elements. From the above will begin, there is a dome above which is a lantern sort of a thing pointing towards the sky. Coming to the next level is a use of drum over which the concrete dome sits, and also the use of windows inside it and different parts of niches into it. Then the use of a railing, a small balcony over the first floor, use of balustrades in them with a very classical style. And then in the lower story, we see the use of colonnades of Tuscan orders, and the base, the lower band known as the stylobate, proceeding with the steps which we can use to access the building. And the building is itself a complete structure and shows us the view of a Renaissance style of a building in a very small scale. So in this slide, you have a fair idea of the elements of Renaissance used in the building. And here you have the blow up images of all the elements used in the building. So in the first picture, if you look at, there is a use of pilaster, which is in the inside ring of the building. The outside ring contains of Tuscan orders as discussed earlier, and this is the inside ring, which is the wall of the temple, and this is the use of pilaster here, and this pilaster goes on for the whole perimeter of the building. In the second picture, if you look at, you see that there is a use of triglyph and metope, which was used basically in the orders done in Greek and Roman. So when we look at the orders style, so they had basically some terminologies used for the description of orders, and in that part only we had the use of entablature, wherein that was divided into different parts, and those parts had different bands. So one of the bands contained the pediments. Basically, if you remember the pantheon, then those contains the characters of triglyph and metope, wherein which you can very well see in this temple on the lower band of the upper floor. And these particular bands are basically the upper part of the capital of the orders, which is basically that part which we have already seen in the past, that the capital of the order contained that architrave wala part. So in the third picture, if you look at, you see that there is again a zoom image of the use of niches in the drum of the dome. So basically this particular part, this part I'm talking about, is the window, which is on all four sides of the drum, and the rest of the parts are the niches which have been created in the drum. Also, here you can have a look at the balustrades in the railing of the building on the upper floor. The picture 4 has the interior view of the building, where you also see the use of pilasters having a band above it, which contains again the use of triglyphs, and also the lower part of the dome, also known as the drum, when you see the use of niches and the windows. Now comes the another building, which is St. Peter's Rome. So if you remember, in early Christian architecture, we have already read about the St. Peter's Rome, and This was done by the Emperor Constantine, which was the first Christian emperor of Rome. And it was his decision to erect a basilica on Vatican Hill, and which is also supposed location of the St. Peter's tomb. Tomb because of I have already told that this particular place is supposed to have the burial grounds of St. Peter's. So basically, the actual construction of this particular building has started in 1319 and was completed around 349 AD. So that means that the building has already been done, and now what we see, the current St. Peter's is a different building. So if you look at this particular image, this is basically the plan of the old St. Peter's Basilica, which was done in the 4th century by the Constantine. And it was the most important building erected in that period. And many architects in that period, because it took 120 years to be constructed and ready for the use. So many architects were there who were engaged upon and contributed in the construction of the building. So basically, what happened is that this particular basilica, which was old St. Peter's, it stood for over 1000 years. And however, it had started to deteriorate, and due to some serious conditions, maybe because of the structure, and also because the structure stayed for the 1000 years, obviously there might be some atmospheric issues which would have deteriorated the material, and also the structure wouldn't have that sound to resist, it may have collapsed. So the Pope Julius II decided that it was beyond repair, it was not possible to repair this particular building, and it would have to be demolished and rebuilt. So the next criteria was to have another building at the place, at the site of old St. Peter's Basilica. So as believed, the site of St. Peter's Cathedral in Rome was actually the original site of the Circus of Nero and a cemetery. So if you remember again, if you go back to the Roman architecture, then you realize that in Greek and Roman we had that Circus of Nero part, and that had been again demolished, and a new version of this St. Peter's Basilica was basically constructed on that particular site, which is now an old St. Peter's. Then it stood for 1000 years, then that was demolished, and the another version was supposed to be created on that particular site. So if you see, this is the third building which is to be constructed on that particular site. Now this new basilica, as also informed earlier, it took 120 years to complete, and as a contribution of many architects into it. So this particular building had so many architectural influences, as in this has not been created in a single era. It had been into 2-3 eras. So this has the architectural styles of Renaissance and also the High Renaissance, which is then included the another part of Mannerism, and then the Baroque. So all the architects, sculptors who were involved in those eras and were also involved in the construction of this particular building. So while I'll have the explanation done for this building and you'll look at the building images, you'll understand that the building has been done in the phases with different architects, and you can also identify the work which has been done in the different eras. For that reason, many architects were consulted. However, the main to this creation of St. Peter's Basilica was done by Bramante, Raphael, Michelangelo, Giacomo del Porta, Maderno, and also other architects, those whose work were not influential, so they are not named, but these are some important architects whose contribution can be seen in St. Peter's, Rome. So what happened is that Bramante basically he produced the original design for the basilica in 1506, and then after, if you look at the picture, you can see the plan which was done by Bramante. And if you see that the plan you look at is a Greek cross. So I hope that this is very clear to you. What is the difference between a Greek cross and a Latin cross? Basically, these are the cross where Greek cross has all its sides equal, wherein the Latin cross, one of its sides is larger. So looking at the picture, you can very well understand the use of Greek cross. All the sides of this particular building are same. So this plan was presented by Bramante in 1506 as a Greek cross, and thereafter the improvisations were done in the plan, and the another form of the plan in the end was converted to a Latin cross, which can be seen here in the picture itself. But in between, when Bramante proposed the plan, he died after that, and after Bramante's death in 1514, Raphael took over as the main architect, and when Raphael died in 1520, Michelangelo took his place. So Michelangelo's pupil, as in his interns who were Giacomo del Porta, continued building it after Michelangelo's death in 1564, and Carlo Maderno was later asked by Pope Paul V to extend the church. So St. Paul's Basilica was basically finally completed on 18th of November 1626 and was consecrated by Pope Urban VIII. So basically there had been so many changes done in the plan, in the facade, and in the entire building interiors, and after 120 years of work, this particular building was ready in 1626. So looking at the plans done by other important influential architects, Michelangelo proposed this particular for his consent of this particular building, which was later rejected, and as he died, another person has to work over it, and with the need of this picture is basically the view of St. Peter's in the Vatican City, and is the current picture of the St. Peter's, Rome. This has the elongated plan, as you have seen in the previous slide, done by Carlo Maderno, which has the Latin cross plan, and also the piazza, which was added to it in the later years around the finishing of it. So the picture is basically the recent picture of what actually is St. Peter's Basilica. 1506 building was designed by Pope Julius by Bramante, and as told to you, it was later passed on to the other architects who has worked upon it. So now if you look at the plan of the building, you see that there is a nave which is 80 feet wide, and you look at, as I have told you earlier, the elements of churches. I hope everybody is clear what is nave. So this central part is the nave, which is believed to be 80 feet wide, and the central crossing is covered by the dome. So this is the central crossing. Basically this is the crossing and this is the dome over it. So basically this is the central crossing, these particular parts which is supposed to be in the Latin cross. This is the extended part of that Greek cross which converts this into Latin, and this is basically the part where the dome exists. So the dome has its diameter of 137 feet 6 inches, and the short transepts are terminated by a semicircular apse. So if you see that these are the transepts part and these are semicircular apse which are seen here at all three sides. So there is a high altar stands under the dome with a baldacchino. So in the plan also you can see the altar, and there comes into picture what is a baldacchino. Baldacchino is basically a canopy over the altar, and it is supposed to be designed by the architect Bernini, and this is one of the beautiful structure done by Bernini in his times, and extraordinary work by him. This particular baldacchino is 100 feet in high, and it is basically considered that this is over the alleged tomb of St. Peter. So the tomb of St. Peter's lies just underneath the baldacchino. So vestibule at the east end extends the whole width of the church, and the chancel being at the west end. So if you see that this is the vestibule part and this is the chancel part which will be seen in the another areas of the church. So these are some of the pictures of the St. Peter's Basilica. Picture 1 is basically the facade of the St. Peter's Basilica, wherein it also includes the obelisk, as the obelisk is supposed to have been imported from the Egypt, and this has been imported from that place and stood up here in the center of this particular piazza. This particular piazza is also called as Piazza of St. Peter's Square and has been designed by Bernini. So also this obelisk has two fountains which can be seen in figure 2 on the either of sides of it, and a single obelisk in the center of the St. Peter's Square. These are the view of the orders which have been used in the piazza, and also the number of statues over the orders have been used over it, which are 140 in number. Picture 4 is basically the inside gallery of that particular St. Peter's Square, where you can see the use of orders on both the sides and a gallery which is leading to that semicircular St. Peter's Square. After Bramante has proposed a Greek cross plan, it was then shifted to Michelangelo, who worked upon it, and he proposed a plan also in a Greek cross with a 5 cupolas, and largest of which was the huge central cupola or the dome. Then in the 17th century, Carlo Maderno revised the shape of the plan, and then he converted that shape into a Latin cross, extending one of its sides and also adding a vestibule into the plan. Then after the church plan was done and was finalized and the construction was done over it, the another part of St. Peter's Square was built by Bernini, and that was done in 1656 to 1667. I've also discussed that in previous slide that what this piazza includes. So you can very well understand the use of two huge semicircles, and these semicircle actually contains 280 columns, which are having the use of statues over all the columns. So if you look at these semicircles, you'll see the use of statues over it. And as I have also shown you the zoom view where it was very easily visible, in the other pictures also it will be seen by you. And as told by me in the previous slides, it has a Egyptian obelisk which is from the circus of Caligula and Nero. So the obelisk has twin fountains on the either of its sides, and one of the fountain had been done by Madonna and the another by Bernini. After all the plans of the building, the plans of the piazza, everything was done, there are some facts about St. Peter's Basilica I would like you to know about. So there are two levels below the St. Peter's Basilica, and the first level below it is known as the Vatican Grots, and it is a very large underground graveyard, which is also called as necropolis if you have heard it. So this is a very large graveyard. So a cemetery and a necropolis both are different things, and but the use of necropolis is basically the graveyard, the burial place only. So where it is believed that in the first level of the St. Peter's Basilica there are tombs of 91 popes which are buried till date, and the another level below that is the level where it is believed that it houses the St. Peter's tomb. So coming to the another facts of St. Peter's Basilica, it is also believed that there is a very famous carving of Peter which is housed in St. Peter's Basilica, and is protected by bulletproof glass. So if you look at, this is the Peter done by Michelangelo. So this is what I'm talking about, and it was carved from a single slab of marble and was the only work which he ever signed. So this is very famous Michelangelo's Pieta. You should know about it. So as discussed in the previous slides, I used the term baldacchino. So this is what the baldacchino looks like. So if you look at, this is the baldacchino believed to be on the tomb of St. Peter's and also on the crossing of the sides just below the dome of the St. Peter's Church. And Bernini erected the four-fold colonnades. If you see, this is basically a semi-covered kiosk or canopy which has a roof over it, and all the four sides are not covered by anything. So these are particular those four columns which are used for its stability structure system, and these four-fold colonnades are including the piazza, 650 feet wide in front. And he also erected the brazen baldacchino under the dome with metal taken from the portico of Pantheon. So it is done in metal, and it is believed that this particular metal has been taken from the portico of Pantheon. So after the study of St. Peter's Rome, if I would like to summarize all of it, so many architects worked over it, and so much of transition took place. So I would like to brush up that who was the architect responsible for what part of the work done in the St. Peter's Church. So beginning with Donato Bramante, whose was the first design done in Greek cross, and Julius II was the one who suggested and who accepted the work of Donato Bramante, but as he died that work has to be taken up from by another architect, and the Antonio da Sangalo was the student of Bramante, and he undertook that work. And then Fra Giocondo strengthened the foundation of this particular building. Then after, Raphael worked with Fra Giocondo and they redesigned the building plan, and that particular plan was not executed. So that does not come into play, that when we are talking about the plans of this particular building, we didn't go through any plan done by Raphael. Then come the role of the Michelangelo, who designed the dome of this particular building, the crossing, and the exterior excluding the nave and facade. The another architect responsible after Michelangelo's death was Giacomo del Porta, and this particular architect designed the cupola. Basically, that particular cupola was already designed by Michelangelo, but because of he was not able to finish that and he left that in between because of his death, that was completed by Giacomo del Porta. And for that reason, Giacomo del Porta is responsible for the design of the cupola of that St. Peter's building. Then comes into play Carlo Maderno, who extended the Michelangelo's plan, adding a nave and a grand facade. So if you look at the facade of the building, that is done by Carlo Maderno, and also the addition of the nave, which is done in the plan. Then in the end comes the Gian Lorenzo Bernini, who added the piazza, also known as the St. Peter's Square, the baldacchino, which is visible to you. We have had enough discussion over it. And also this particular chair done in timber, also called as the Cathedra Petri. So these were the basically works of famous architects done in different phases in St. Peter's Basilica. After having done with the High Renaissance part, where we have read about Tempito and St. Peter's Basilica, now comes the mannerism. So we have read about early Renaissance, we have read about High Renaissance, now comes the late Renaissance. So this late Renaissance is basically the another style of architecture called as mannerism, and there were many architects and artisans who were involved in the building design of this particular time. But in my lecture, I will include Andrea Palladio's work. So, Andrea Palladio is an Italian architect and regarded as the greatest architect of 16th century. His designs for palaces and villas, notably the Villa Rotonda near Vicenza, is one of its remarkable works done during his times. So, in the times of mannerism, Andrea Palladio has contributed a lot, and as some of the examples building which will be done by the great architects of those times, I'll be taking Villa Rotonda as one of his famous building as a part of discussion. Now coming up to the another building done in mannerism by Andrea Palladio is a very famous building known as Villa Rotunda or Villa Capra. It is a Renaissance villa just outside Vicenza, and as told, is designed by Andrea Palladio. The correct name of this villa is actually Almerico Capra, and this is famous for its name known as La Rotunda as well. So the name Capra came from the Capra brothers who completed the building after it was given to them after the death of Andrea Palladio. And like other works by Palladio in Vicenza, the surrounding area, the building is conserved as a part of World Heritage Site and is very famous of all. So in 1565, actually, a priest Paolo Almarico, on whose name it is also called as Villa Almarico. On his retirement from the Vatican City, the St. Peter's Basilica Church, he was the Pope from that church. He decided to return to his home, which is in the town of Vicenza, and wanted to build a country house. And that was the house which was later known as La Rotunda and was one of the best known legacies by the architectural world done by Palladio. And this sort of a building may have inspired 1,000 subsequent buildings, but Villa was itself inspired by the building Pantheon done in Rome. So, if you look at this background of the text, the picture is the Villa Rotunda, where you see that it is a very simple building which has a portico, and that portico is visible on two of its sides, while if you look at the plan, it is on all four sides. So looking at these pictures, it gives you a glimpse of the elements used in the Villa Rotunda. So this design is for a completely symmetrical building, and which is having a square plan having four facades, and each of which has a projecting portico. So in this picture you can see that there is a portico and the another one is here as well, and it gives you a glimpse of the portico of a pantheon. So when you look at pantheon, you see the series of orders there, you see the use of pediments there. This is sort of the used building as the pantheon has looked like. So the name La Rotunda refers to the central circular hall with its dome. So if you look at the plan is somewhere square in shape. This is the plan of the building, which has four porticos on each of its sides, and they are all identical. And because the building has the name Villa Rotunda, this is because it has a circular part or the hall which has a dome over it. To describe the villa as a whole, rotunda is technically correct, as you see that the building is not circular, but rather the intersections of a square with the cross. Each portico has a steps leading up and opens via a small cabinet or an entrance or a corridor to the circular dome hall. So from each portico, when you enter, you directly enter into the circular hall, and it is possible from all the four sides. So, and all other rooms were proportioned and were designed according to Palladio's own rules of architecture, which he also published in his own book. So, as you look at the building, you see that the design is basically the values of Renaissance architecture imbibed in it, and in order to have sun in all the rooms, the design was rotated to 45 degrees from each cardinal point of the compass, and the four porticos which has the pediments are graced by statues of classical deities. So this is the plan section of the building, you may see, and Palladio basically had begun this building in 1567, and both of the Palladio and the owner, which was Paolo Almerico, were not able to see the completion of the villa. So he died in the year 1580, and a second architect was allotted to the building, who was Vincenzo Scamozzi. He was employed to have the completion done over to this building. And one of the major changes what he did into this plan was to modify the two-story central hall. So this basically he modified this two-story central hall, and Palladio had intended it to be covered by a semicircular dome. So he wanted that this particular building should be covered by a high semicircular dome. But Scamozzi designed a lower dome with an oculus. So if you remember the plan and of the dome of Pantheon, it has a circular opening at the apex. So that particular opening is called as oculus, and this dome also had that same feature of oculus intended to be open to the sky. The term is like oculus is something which is intended to be open to the sky, and that inspiration has been taken from Pantheon. And dome was ultimately completed with a cupola. So finally that intention of doing it with an oculus was not done. Instead, a cupola over a dome was completed. If you look at these pictures, you'll see that the design done by Palladio, having the covering of high semicircular dome over the building, has not been done, while the design by Scamozzi has been implemented of a lower dome with an oculus. So oculus was not there, so you can see a cupola at the top of the dome, and this is how the second architect made changes in the design of this Villa Rotunda. And also all the four porticos provides different four views, and the highlight of the interior is the central circular hall, which is surrounded by a balcony and is covered by a domed ceiling. And there is no coincidence, as the villa was designed to be perfect in harmony with landscape. This was an extraordinary work done by Andrea Palladio, and this is a very famous building, one of its important work done during his times. The house appears to be completely symmetrical, and it actually has some deviations designed to allow each facade to complement the surrounding landscape and topography. So hence there are variations in the facade, in the width of the steps, the retaining walls, etc. And in this way, the symmetry of the architecture allows for the asymmetry of the landscape and creates a seemingly symmetrical whole. So if you look at the building as a whole, it gives you the impression of a symmetrical building. But there are some variations which has been done in the different facades. Not that much of the variations has been done so that they can be identified that easily, but to deviate the building so that it seems to be symmetrical and not symmetrical, some variations has been done. The landscape is a panoramic vision of trees and meadows and woods, and with the distant Vicenza on the horizon. As the building is on the hilltop, so from there you can have beautiful scenic views. One of the views from the portico is the entrance of the building, where you have an avenue, and all the three parts of the portico allows you to have a view from a hilltop to the different versions of that building. into the city of Vicenza. The portico is set into the hills as the termination of straight carriageway drive. So the one which is the entrance of the building is set into the hill as a straight carriageway drive. And the carriageway is basically an avenue between the service blocks built by the Kepra brothers, the another owner of the building, who acquired the villa in 1591. So they commissioned Scamozzi to complete the villa and construct the range of staff and agricultural buildings. So this, other than this building, there are some small pockets in the building which are also done, but this particular building is famous as the works of Andrea Palladio. So as one approaches the villa from this angle, one is deliberately made to feel one is ascending from some less worthy place to a temple on high. So when you enter the building, it is on a gradient. So when one enters, it seems like as if somebody is moving on to a high temple at a hill. So the same view is in reverse from the villa. When you look from the villa towards that entrance, that view is reversed and highlights a classical chapel on the edge of Vicenza, and thus villa and town are united. So this is all about the Villa Rotunda. So in this lecture particularly, we have read about the three buildings, two done by Bramante and the St. Peter's, which was done by the other architects as well, especially Tempido, which was done by Bramante, and also the works done in the mannerism architecture, the Villa Rotunda done by Andrea Palladio.